Well, joining us now is the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. Thank you very much for being on the programme, Mr. Khan. What's your response to Liz Truss's victory?
Well, at a personal level, I sincerely congratulate Liz Truss on being elected the Conservative leader today. She'll be the Prime Minister tomorrow. We may come from different political traditions, but she was a councillor in London between 2006 and 2010. I'm hoping that what unites us is our common desire to see our capital city flourishing and thriving, but also our country succeeding.
Do you think she's a person that you could work with?
We need to. We need to put aside our party political difference. We need to avoid this anti-London stuff we've seen over the last 2-3 years. We need to avoid pitting communities and people against one another because of a culture war, and work together to address soaring inflation, to work together to address the rising energy prices, to work together to keep the head above water of those families, those communities, those businesses that are looking to the Prime Minister and myself for leadership and working together.
Just to come in, what do you mean by kind of anti-London sort of rhetoric that we've seen? You talking about the levelling up agenda there?
Well, look, some people perceive levelling up as meaning making London poorer. That certainly is one way to make our country more level. I think it's nonsensical, particularly when before the pandemic, we as the capital city contributed net £40 billion to the Treasury, which was then distributed around the country. So, for example, our public transport in London suffered hugely because Londoners did the right thing and stayed at home. So we need support from the government in the short term to make sure public transport works in London, that ensures our businesses can have workers get into their offices and tourists getting around our city. It makes no sense to punish Londoners by starving TfL of support. And there are other examples of pots of funding from the government that we are able to bid for. So what I'm saying is, look, I understand the importance of making our country more equal. One of the ways of doing that is by devolving more powers and resources to Manchester, to Liverpool, to Sheffield and London, so we can all flourish and thrive, rather than London struggling and as a consequence our country struggling too.
I spoke to Wes Streeting, the Shadow Health Secretary, a little bit earlier on this afternoon, and he told me that he would like to see Liz Truss call an election, that she doesn't have a mandate, she can't break away from the manifesto in a democratic way without calling an election. Do you agree with that?
Well, if Liz Truss is going to be continuity of Boris Johnson, then I think the British public deserve the opportunity to vote for a fresh start under Keir Starmer and the Labour Party. Many of the issues that are causing this national crisis have been exacerbated by the government of the last 12 years. Look at the strikes, which are a symptom of 12 years of austerity, where those in the public sector in particular have seen pay cut after pay cut over the last 12 years. Look at the cost of energy in the UK versus the cost of energy in the European Union and across the world. So look, if Liz Truss is continuity Boris Johnson, continuity Theresa May, then I think we do need a general election to give the British public the option of a fresh start under Keir Starmer with fresh, different policies, or continuation of the Conservatives, which what we've seen over the last 12 years causing real problems around the country.
Boris Johnson was an election winner, wasn't he? Do you think that he would have been a more formidable opponent than Liz Truss?
Well, he's the past. I'm keen to talk about the future. And Liz Truss is the future Prime Minister of our country from tomorrow. I want to reset relations between me, the Mayor of London, and the Mayor of the capital city and the new Prime Minister. I think what we need to do is to stop seeing North versus South, or older versus younger, or one faith versus another. What we want to see and what we deserve is a Prime Minister govern in the national interest rather than governing in the narrow party political interest.
OK, Sadiq Khan, Mayor of London, thank you very much indeed for being on the programme today.